All I've done is get up here. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Glad to see a packed room tonight. That's fantastic. As Chris said, we met a few months ago at my Meetup, the Personal Development London Meetup, where I do a workshop for 2 hours. And it really is meant to be a workshop, not just me up here talking. So I hope for the next hour, you're ready to do some writing. You've got a book and a pen or something. So this is meant to be you working more than me working in that sense. And just to give you, so we're going to do 1 hour. So it's going to be not everything that I do in the 2 hours. And but if you want to come along to the Personal Development London Meetup, more than happy to continue on with that with you. And some people come around a couple of times because it's not easy getting through your goals. It's easy to fall off track. It's easy to let other things distract you, things that you were doing, things that you want to do, things that just come up. So it can be quite difficult to keep pressing forward with it. So what I'd like to do is just for the next minute or so, give you a bit of background on who I am, so you know who you're listening to. As Chris said, Scott Gregory is my name, and I'm from Canada, but I've lived in the UK now for about 20 years. Actually, it was 20 years about 2 months ago. And I came over here to do finance, so I studied finance back in Canada, and I came to London as a global financial center to study finance, to work in finance, in venture capital. Then I was an investment banker. I've funded companies, I've founded companies, and I've really enjoyed all of it. I've been able to live on 4 different continents, live and work on 4 different continents, and travel quite extensively. A lot of it's down to some planning. Some of it's down to some good luck, but figuring out what your big goals are and then going after them. And right now I work for a company trying to turn it around. It's an insurance company, and it's a very exciting time in that group. So that's a little bit about me. I think what we should do for the next couple of minutes is talk about goals themselves. So I saw almost every hand go up when Chris asked who has goals. And can I just see who has a plan for those goals as well? Anyone? Okay. A few, that's good. Because I was thinking I'm going to just tell you a whole bunch of stuff you might already have done. But the goals, so having the goal is quite important. Everything you do is based on goals. Whether you think about it or not, whether you plan it or not, everything you are doing, getting here tonight, you had a goal. You had a destination. You mapped out what time you had to get here, so there was a time reference. You figured out how you were going to do it on a bus, you're going to walk, train, car. You had to figure out where the address was specifically. You couldn't just say, oh, it's somewhere around Russell Square, because you'd still be walking around outside right now trying to figure out where this room was. So you have to be really specific. And what people tend to do when they start looking at their goals is they're quite general. I want a nice house. Well, that's good. A nice house is good. But then get more specific. Get down into it. What kind of house? Where is that house? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? You know, what else is in that house? What kind of car? What color of car? How fast does it go? What brand? What make? So get specific with your thinking. Okay? And I find that if you don't have goals that you want, you'll end up following somebody else's dream, somebody else's path. And they probably don't have much there for you. They're thinking about their own goals. You just happen to be tagging along. So you got to figure out, what are your goals? And what do you really want? And it can be hard. Granted, it can be hard. But if you don't have them and work at them every day, and that's what we're going to go into shortly, working on them every single day. If you're not disciplined, if you don't have the pain of discipline, at some point in the future, you're going to have the other pain, which is the pain of regret. And I find it's kind of a long burning thing. For a lot of things, you don't realize until years later what you're going to regret. And all of a sudden it hits you and you think, oh my gosh, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I stick to that when I was 15 or 23 or 46 or 62, whatever age you are and beyond. You got to think, you've got to have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Okay? Everybody that's winning a gold medal, winning at the Rugby World Cup last year, or the Olympics this year in Rio, every one of those people that are competing push themselves every single day. They didn't go, oh, yeah, Star Wars is out. I got to go check that out. Oh, somebody said I could go to the pub and we could have like a Sunday off. No, they dedicated themselves to that goal, and that's why they are where they are. But don't think they did it without sacrifice. And maybe their life looks pretty great right now. They're famous, they've got wealth, they've got gold medals, they've won something, whatever it is. That looks great. You're seeing the event at the end. But remember, behind that event at the end is a whole lot of years of discipline. And so that's where you are. You're at the start of that as of today, that time of discipline, so that you don't look back 10 years from now and say, geez, gosh, I really regret not doing what I wanted to do, not giving it a try. Okay, so that's cheery. Right. So what I'd like you to do now is just take a few minutes and write down your goal. Even if you've written down, let's look at like 5 and 10 year goals. Something like that's not tomorrow or next week. 5, 10 years, what are a couple of goals? Try to write down right now 3 or 4, put it into an iPad, write it on paper, into your phone, but get it written down. And you might not have the exact words you want, but write something down. You'll craft it a bit more later, but get something written down. Okay? We'll give you 3 minutes to be thinking about it, writing them down, and try to make them specific. Try to give it a time frame. Say, in about 5 years, I want to do X. And to give you a sense of some things that you can write, something that you want to do, something you want to become, or something you want to have. If anybody has any questions, just let me know and I'll come over. So you,
yeah, because I missed something. So what we want to become, what we want to have,
and do.
And
If you want to do something. Yeah. Okay, we'll give you another 30 seconds. Okay, everyone got some goals written down? Even if it's ones that you wrote down last week or on the 31st of December 2015. Okay? Right. So now you've got some goals you've kind of started thinking about, which is good. They're probably not super specific. They might not be SMART goals, if you've heard of SMART goals. You can Google that. but you have some goals, so that's something to start with, which is great, because this process takes a bit of time. Because goal setting and achieving, goal setting is one thing, you've now written them down, you've kind of set a goal, right? But now it's the achieving part, getting the results you want. That's the really tricky part, because that's where the real effort and the discipline comes in. And this is 95% psychological. So you've got to overcome some fears, some I'm not good enoughs, some, well, my parents said X or Y, my friends don't think I can X, Y, Z. You've got to overcome these negative things that you've heard, things that you've thought, things that people say. And it seems really simple, but it's pretty difficult. But it is just psychological, so it's retraining your mind to think slightly differently. And some people can do that quite quickly, and some people take years to do it. Like quitting smoking can be quite difficult. And one of the things I think about when somebody trying to quit smoking, for example, is that you hang around probably with smokers. So every time you see them smoking, it kind of reminds you what that smoking's like. And they might even offer you one, or they might have a pack and you might just, grab, or you can go into a store and get some. So it's not just quitting smoking, it's your friends. It's the restaurants you go to. Used to be more so when you could smoke in restaurants. It's the stores that you go to, because when you go into that store, and every time you go into that store you say, oh, I'll have a packet of Marlboros there, that's a trigger. So when you walk into the store, you have this ingrained habit, you point, you mention what you want, you pay some money, you walk out. So you got to stop going to that store, because every time you walk in, you're going to buy a pack of smokes. So it's just psychological, mostly, but you have to retrain yourself, get some new habits, go to different stores, hang out with different people, use different language, listen to what you're saying, your own self-talk, what you say to yourself, oh, I'm so stupid, oh, that was such an idiot move. Don't say that anymore. It's not helpful, right? So watch what you're saying, watch what you say, watch how you look at things. Think about it. Every little bit matters. So be really careful about that, really careful about what language you use. Using Jim Rohn as an example, he has this great little piece about the word fascinating. And he used to use the word fascinating whenever something wasn't going quite well. Because it just changes your attitude, right? His piece is that he's racing off to the airport, he's on the highway, he's booting along, he's got half an hour to get there, everything's great, and then it's dead stop. And he's going nowhere on this motorway. So one way to look at it is getting angry, frustrated. He says, I am now fascinated. It changes your whole thinking, your whole process. I wonder why this is happening. What's going to happen next? This is interesting. Make it part of the journey, because you can't change it. So just change your mind. You can't change the physical that's happening. So think about how you think of things. Change some of those habits, which are quite important. Okay? So what I'd like to do now is just take 2 minutes and have you write down some habits that you find you do, or people have said you do, or even you think you do, and even if you don't. Write them down. Write down some habits that you have that you think could be holding you back from achieving your goals. Might not be helping you. Ones that you may want to change. Okay? In 2 minutes. Give you another minute habits that you'd like to change, that are holding you back, that you need to deal with. Just write them down so you don't forget. Okay? Now, another fairly famous Jim Rohn attribution, I guess. He's possibly the first person who knows, but he's often attributed to saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you go back to the smokers, you're hanging out with smokers, you're possibly a smoker. There's a reasonable chance that if you aren't already, you will be. If you hang around with the smartest kids in the class, there's a reasonable chance that's going to rub off. You're going to get some of their habits, their way of thinking. You might be one of the smarter kids in the class. If you hang out at the back of the bus and don't listen and don't do anything and hang out with the class clowns, you might end up kind of getting the class clown tag and maybe the grades of the class clown, right? So careful who you align yourself with. Who are you spending your time with? What are they saying to you? Because what they're saying to you is affecting you, whether you think it is or not. It is. Because everything matters. Everything matters. And you never know what thing is going to matter. You never know at what point it's going to really kick in. Like water. Water's boiling along. First it's cold, then it's boiling, and then it gets hotter, and it gets hotter. Then all of a sudden, at a certain temperature, it's steam. Just like that. And if you turn it down 1 degree, it's just hot water. And that steam, 150 years ago, powered trains to take people across continents. But if it wasn't the right temperature, it was just water. So think, there's a tipping point for many things. And that tipping point is ever so slight, generally. So, listen to what you're saying, listen to what you're doing, look who you're hanging around with. So being here tonight, after this, we're all going to break out and have a drink and chat to some people, find out what people are doing. Find out if this is the group you want to be spending the time with. And if you can't find people physically to spend time with, listen to some podcasts, read books, get the input from other places. And slowly you'll shift your interactions with people if they're not helpful. If they're helpful, then stick around with them. But if they're not helpful, recognize them and find people that you want to spend more time with. Especially if you're trying to be successful in business, you need a team. You need people around you that are doing the same things that you want, that are pushing forward, positive motion, forward motion, not holding you back. Okay? So the next piece, there's a couple of laws I just wanted to bring up. And one's the law of intent. So if you're going to do something, do it now. That's why I ask you to write things down. We stop and just write things down, because it's important that if you're thinking of something, you do it now. And you've got to get into that habit to pounce on that moment. Get in the habit of doing that. Because the law of diminishing intent states that the longer you put something off, the less likely it'll ever get done. Right? Chris brought up a good point earlier. You're sitting in the class, you're sitting in a course, you're writing stuff down, it's really good, you're soaking it all up, you're writing lots of notes, it's really great, and you're like, I can't wait to go do this. And Sunday night comes and you put it away, you go to bed, and 3 months later when you're cleaning out your closet, you're like, oh, there's those notes. You had the intent, but you probably thought about it dozens of times, but you just couldn't get yourself over to the closet to pull the stuff out and look at it. So don't suffer from the law of diminishing intent. Get stuff done. Be the person that gets stuff done right then. Pounce on that moment. Think, I got to do that. Sort it out. Move this over here. Sort this out. Sort that out. But one of the things is you've got to discard a lot of stuff. Because in order to pounce on great opportunities, you can't be bogged down with hundreds of little things in your life. So focus. Focus in. Okay? You really need to focus down to a few things and get rid of some other things. Because what we're about to do is we're going to go through this 7-day success cycle, and you're going to need some time to fit this 7-day success cycle in. I've never met anybody who just has who has a half hour that they're doing nothing. Everyone's always busy, they got stuff, they're doing things, up till 10, 11, 12, trying to get it all in. There just aren't people just sitting, there's a TV show to watch, there's this thing to do, there's work, there's my new business, there's whatever. There's very few people, I think, in the world that are just sitting there going, yeah, I got nothing. Nothing to do, nowhere to be. There's nobody like that, right? Everyone's running from one thing to another thing, trying to get stuff done. So you're going to have to figure out what stuff you're doing right now is stuff you can get rid of. Because if you don't get rid of that stuff, in 3 weeks from now, that stuff will be back in your life, and everything I tell you in the next half an hour will be gone. It'll be in the closet, under some books, forgotten. So take a couple of minutes right now and write down some more things. So you've written down the habits, now write down some of the things that you don't need in your life right now, that you're willing to sacrifice, willing to give up. Things you don't need in your life, like going to the pub every Thursday night for 5 hours. Maybe you could go for 3. And maybe you go later, because if you go early and try to leave after 3, you might not make it out. You might be there for 5. So, and maybe not go to the pub at all. Skip it once a month, twice a month. That phone call, that half-hour phone call with the friend you have every week that really doesn't do much, get rid of it. I had a friend who said when he was working, he could have a coffee and read the paper in 15 minutes. And then when he wasn't working, it was about a 2-hour session. And it's amazing. Time will you'll find the time if you want to just do nothing. You want to drift, you can drift all you want. There'll be time for it. But now we're going to start putting some hard stuff in there, some hard stops, and say, no, you're going to change what you want to do, and you're going to focus on what you actually want and not drift along. You say, enough of that. So for the next 2 minutes, write down things you want to get rid of time-wise in your life. Where are you going to create space? What are you going to get rid of? Start with little things, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Scrolling through Facebook for 45 minutes, is that one you could get rid of? So I'll give you another minute. Just scribble some stuff down, type it out, because this is important stuff that you're going to have to really pick up on over the next week, 2, 3. If anyone has any questions, let me know. Okay. Now, so we've talked about goal setting. We've written some goals down, written down some habits that we want to adjust, some things we want to move out of our life to make space for all these goals that we have and things that we want to do and getting kind of excited about. Now, how do we do that? Now, having spent a lot of time working on goals, reading about different things, trying different things, I've distilled it in my mind down to what I call MAPS. MAPS for success. Because you need a map, right? If you're going to go somewhere, every one of you have a destination in mind, this goal. So you need a map to get there. And it's a lot easier to get somewhere if you have a map. I mean, who used Google Maps tonight to get here? Anyone? Yeah, okay, most of the room, right. Okay, right? How convenient is that? You pull your phone out of your pocket, you hit a couple of things, boom, it tells you where to go, and you don't even have to think anymore. Now you can be looking at stuff over here, looking at the shops, and oh, course correct, I got to go this way. Right. That's great, right? And you're course correcting. Every once in a while you're like, oh, not that street, oh, it's this street, oh, here we go, right? So those maps are quite important for anything. And I'll tell you what MAP stands for in a second, but there's a recipe for everything. Everything. If you want to know how to make a banana smoothie, you can look it up. And there's a recipe. It says, you know, X number of bananas, a bit of cinnamon, some milk, some ice cubes, whatever you want, put it in there, and that is the recipe for banana smoothies. You want to build a car? You can get that. You want to build a rocket ship? You can get that. There's a recipe. There's a way of doing it successfully. So you need to find the recipe for success for the thing that you want to do and follow the recipe. Just like a recipe book. Now make sure you're following the one that gives you the result you want. Because there's different recipes for different things. My banana smoothie might have spinach in it. So just be careful what banana smoothie recipe you're following. Make sure that you look at the recipe carefully and find out what actually the result is going to be. Because if you get the wrong one and you do all that work and you get the wrong result, you have yourself to blame because you didn't begin with the end in mind. So find out what the end product is and then find the right recipe. Not any recipe, find the right recipe. Because there's recipes for everything. There's recipes for success and there's recipe for disaster. People even use those in common language. And it's true. And I don't know why anybody follows the recipe for disaster, but somehow people are following this recipe and it happens. So make sure it's not you. Okay? So MAPS. Mindset, action, process, and standards. Those are the 4 ingredients to this recipe for success. Mindset, action, process, and standards. Okay? Mindset, very important. Have you got a growth mindset for this thing or not? A fixed mindset. Figure out what your mindset is. And you can have, for each thing in your life, either a growth or a fixed mindset. There's a book called Mindset. The author is Dweck. And really good book, very good book. You could read it or just know the basic premise is you've got a fixed mindset or a growth mindset on any given occasion, any given topic. So you may think, oh, I can run 10K. If I try hard enough, I could run 15K, 20K. That's a growth mindset. You figure you can do it. But you also might say, oh, I'd never get on an airplane. Oh, it's too dangerous. I'd never do that. Never. Listen to the self-talk. I could never do that. Why? All you have to do is move your legs, get on the plane, sit down. That's all you have to do. And yet people will say, oh, I could never do that. So there would be a fixed mindset rather than thinking, well, maybe I could do that. How would I do that? Maybe someone could help me with it. How does that work? And trying to figure out how to do it and being curious how to do it. So just keep that in mind. And when you're thinking about what you're doing, your goals, etc., just think with that growth mindset. Think, how do I do it? Be curious. Figure it out. I know I can figure it out. Scott said there's a recipe for everything, so I just either need to find the recipe or find someone who knows the recipe and then follow the recipe. Simple. But that's where you need action, because now you've got the right mindset and you're growing and you're doing stuff, but what are you doing? Right. You got to be doing things. Because if you got the best idea in the world and you do nothing, you just have the best idea in the world. But you're not building a business, you're not contributing to society, you're not doing anything with it. So now you have to get some action in, okay? And to get some action, you need a plan. Because most people like to follow plans, whether they admit it or not. And it's a lot easier if you've got a plan. Because just like Google Maps, you pull it out of your pocket, you type it in, now you've got a plan. It says turn left here, 150 feet, turn right here. 200 feet, 300 meters, whatever it is, turn left, right? There's a plan. It's all mapped out for you. So now we're going to spend a few minutes going through what I call the 7-day success cycle. So this is really the heart of what you need to be doing, okay? What you need to do to keep it simple, because you can say, oh, I'm going to do this for 2016. It's a long year. There's a lot of distractions in 2016. You haven't seen them all yet, but I am guaranteeing you there are a lot of distractions. And you're going to get sidetracked, and you're going to put it off, and you're going to get to it later, and someday, which isn't a weekday, somebody told me the other day. I thought that was neat. Someday is not a weekday. So don't be saying someday, or you'll end up on Someday Isle, which is a nice little place in nowhere land. Okay? It's not an isle in the Caribbean. So what you need to do is right now, whatever you use as a timekeeping device, I'm assuming you've brought your diary, your physical diary, your iCal, your calendar in your phone or something, hopefully. And if not, write it on a piece of paper and transfer it to whatever you use tonight. But don't let the law of diminishing intent make this the end of your success, okay? So right now, write in tomorrow. Book out half an hour tomorrow. So what's tomorrow? Thursday? Thursday the 14th of January 2016. What 30-minute segment of your day are you booking out? So figure that out. When's it going to start? When's it going to finish? It's 30 minutes, but I want you to not just write down 30 minutes. I want you to write down 6:15 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. or 7:10 p.m. to 7:40 p.m. It has to all be there. Because if you don't, it's just not a plan that you're going to follow. It's not a good plan. So write that down. And then think back to the goal half an hour ago. What goal you wanted. Take one of the goals that you wrote down and say what you're going to do. What do you want to achieve in that half hour that's going to bring you one step closer to your goal? It might be reading something. It might be writing something. It might be calling 3 people that you've been putting off for 6 weeks. So write that down in that half hour, the specific 30-minute slot. Write down the result you want to achieve and what you need to do in that 30 minutes to achieve that result. Okay? And make it not super challenging, but make it something, but don't make it so easy that you're done in 5 minutes. Okay? But don't put something in there that's going to take you 2 hours and then you'll just get frustrated because you've only got 30 minutes. And then look on the other piece of paper that you wrote down things you're going to get rid of, and hopefully one of those things is in tomorrow. Otherwise, you're just going to have to lose half an hour of sleep. Right? You're going to have to get up half hour earlier, go to bed half hour later, if you don't get rid of the thing you wrote down earlier that you said, oh, I could get rid of this tomorrow. So say you watch a TV show from 7 to 7:30 every Thursday evening. Say, right, well, I was getting rid of that TV show, so I can slot this in that half hour. Okay? Has everyone written that down? That's fast. That's good. Okay, good. I'll go a bit quicker. So now, Friday. I want you to take a half an hour of your day on Friday and write down from the starting moment to the closing moment, 30 minutes later, what you're going to do and what result you're going to have from doing it. Okay?
Sorry, I'm not clear.
So on Friday, write down same thing, what time you're going to start, what time you're going to finish, your 30-minute slot, and what thing you're going to do or things you're going to do to get you one step closer to that goal that you wrote down earlier tonight. And be pretty precise, because it's easy to go, oh, I'm just going to make 3 phone calls. Is that really going to get you there? Because I know sometimes I make phone calls and nobody answers. So if I make 3 phone calls, does that bring me closer if I get nobody answering? It doesn't really get me closer. I mean, okay, I feel a bit better that I did something. I've got the action. That's good. I've done some action and I've booked it in, but it's not really bringing me closer. So what I really might want is make 3 phone calls and actually speak to 3 people. Now, speaking to 3 people is good. That's good. It's moving along. But do you really just want to speak to them? Hi, hello, how you doing? Just want to make sure you're there. Good, good. Okay, thanks. You know, there's got to be more to it than that, right? So what do you want from speaking to those 3 people? Are you setting up a coffee meeting? Are you setting up a lunch? Is this a sales call? Is this a get information thing? What's the information you want to get? Get specific. This is where being specific really counts. Because at the end of the half hour, you want to look back and say, geez, you know, I made the call, they answered the phone, I asked the question, they answered the question, I got the answer that I needed, and now tomorrow I can use that in my next half hour. So now we've done Thursday and Friday. Saturday, you got another half hour in there. I think you're probably figuring out the 7-day success cycle and how it works. So on Saturday, yeah, people will say it's a weekend, it's my day off. Yeah, forget it. It's not a day off, it's just another day in the week, okay? And lots of people work on Saturday, and you're going to work on Saturday too. Pick the half hour that you want. Could be the same time, could be in the morning. You might want a bit of a lie-in, it might be an hour later. It might be in the evening, it might be midday. Whatever works for you, put it down, write down the specific time you're going to start, 30 minutes later, specific time you're going to end. What's the result that you want? And what do you have to do to get it? So I'm going to give you a minute on this because I can see a lot of thinking, which is really good. But it is tougher because now you're like, oh, well, now what am I going to do?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I am a great goal setter and I set myself tasks every day to reach
Right.
my goal. But I often find that I don't achieve the tasks, not because I don't do them or try to do them, but I just get so behind with everything. Everything seems to take so much longer.
Yes,
to
then you
do
think it was
than
going to
that,
take.
yeah.
Right.
Scott, could you repeat that latest question?
So things take longer. She does a lot of goal setting, but that it's taking longer. So instead of taking 20 minutes to do something, it takes 50. Is that fair? Yeah? 150.
I'm with you on that too.
Yes.
Everything needs to be perfect.
Well, that's yeah, and so there's a couple of things there. You can be a little less perfect. Say it's good. Is this something that needs to be perfect, or does it just need to be good? So, because it's like 80-20, right? It's that point where it's done after 80, but then the next 20 is refining and really making it great. But that'll take up 80% of the time. The first 20% of the time, you're done 80% of the task, generally. But so the other thing is to declutter your life. So it comes back to what you want to get out of your life. So you can only do so much in your life, right? There's only so many hours in a day. we all get 24. And whether you're the Prime Minister of the UK or you are a bartender at the local Weatherspoons, it doesn't matter what you do, you don't get more time. There's no bonus time. Nobody goes, hey, you did really well today, you get 25 hours. There is none of that. You've got 24 hours and you have to be focused and you have to eliminate things. Well, I say you have to. You don't have to. But if you don't, the recipe states you will get this instead of this. And you can kid yourself for years and years that you can kind of fit it all in, but you can't. And then you'll have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, and usually it's the pain of regret at that point. So be disciplined and say, I'm cutting this out, I'm cutting that out. I really enjoy this, so I'm cutting it out 5 days a week, but I'm keeping it for 2. You don't have to cut it all out, but you've got to make room. If you guys are all, you got goals, you got businesses you want to start, you've got jobs, presumably, that you're taking up your day, some will have families and other commitments. You've got to decide what is going to give. Because otherwise you're going to be working off 3 hours of sleep, you're going to be miserable, you're going to be ineffective, and then you're going to fall apart after about 6 months because people can't do that. So start figuring out what goes. And yes, things take longer. Things do generally take longer, but as the gentleman said, if you're trying to make it perfect, look at what you don't have to make perfect. Lots of things you don't have to make perfect. Lots of things can just be good, and you can move on. Focus on the things that you want, okay? And try, when you're decluttering your life of stuff, then you can allow the space, because people will kid themselves. I do this all the time as well. That'll take 20 minutes. You know it's not going to take 20 minutes. It's going to take 50 minutes. But you only have 20 minutes, so it has to take 20 minutes. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. They can have you on hold for half an hour. They can go and check with their manager. And you ever been on one of those phone calls where you're just thinking, this was supposed to take 10 minutes. I was going to be done. But they don't have the right information. They got to go speak to somebody else. Then they transfer you to somebody else. And then something else happens. And then the line drops and you got to call them back. Geez, it's not 10 minutes, right? It's 20, it's 40, it's 50. But you have to allocate time for that because these things happen. Whether you want them to or not, they happen. Okay? Does that answer the question? Yeah? Right. So quickly, Sunday. Same thing. You've got the habit. You're building a habit now. Okay? This is the 4th time you're going to write something down. And yeah, it's getting tiring. And yeah, I get it. Yeah, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. If you don't write it down, you don't build the habit. You don't build the habit, you won't have a plan. You don't have a plan, you won't execute the plan. And a month from now, you'll have regret. So get disciplined right here, right now, and go, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna write down Sunday. This guy, he's getting a bit, he's pushing, so I'm gonna write it down. Sunday, what time are you gonna start? What time are you gonna finish? It's a 30-minute segment. Write down the specific time. 8:15 in the morning to 8:45 in the morning. 1 o'clock to 1:30 in the afternoon. And write down what the result you're gonna get and the activity you're going to do in that time period. Okay? Now we've only got 10 minutes, so we're going to get through this last bit here. So that's Sunday. Anyone who wants to jump ahead, write down Mondays. What are you doing Monday? When you're building a habit, we talked about habits. You got to have the right habits supporting you. You got to have the discipline to follow through on changing the habits. You got to put this stuff down. And if this is too difficult, let me tell you, building a business is going to kill you. Or you just won't do it. Especially if you're trying to build a business, as the room here probably has a job as well. So where are you going to get the time? Because I think Chris said some people, can work 18, 20-hour days. If you're already working 8 and you travel for 2, that's 10, you sleep for 6, there's 16, you're probably eating for 1, there's 17, and you do a whole bunch of other stuff you can't even allocate right now. You can't even figure out what it is for that 5 or 6 hours, right? But your day is full right now, I'm sure it is. So write this down, Sunday, Monday, and if you've done Sunday and Monday, get Tuesday in there, 30 minutes on Tuesday. It's the 7-day success cycle. You can see it all coming through here. And then Wednesday, write down your 30 minutes as well. And don't get lazy here, because if you get lazy in just doing this in a 15-minute session, you're bored and tired, and you're hot, and it's too much. Imagine 7 o'clock at night on the 8th day that you've been trying to deal with some supplier or some new website that you're trying to build. You got to develop the discipline and say, I'm committed, I'm doing it, I'm going to get it done, and do it right now. Pounce. Get it done. Get it done now. Be the person that gets it done. And if I'm repeating myself a lot, it's because repetition is the way that you learn. If you remember how you learned your times tables, multiplication tables, when you were 7, 8, 10, whatever it was when you did it, it wasn't by looking at a screen and going, yeah, I got that. Okay. And you walked away? No. Drills, 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 in class, out of class, with your friends, with your parents, with your teachers, with the teaching assistant. Drills, drills, drills. And it took years before you could do your 12 times tables and your 8 times tables. So I'm not going to do that much with you guys, but I'm just going to repeat a few things, okay? And now what we're going to repeat is next Wednesday, 30 more minutes, because you haven't done 30. Now that's the 7 days, right? So get Wednesday in there, because next Wednesday you got to have 30 minutes in there. Now, quickly, I'm throwing in the extra thing. You need an hour. Now it can be 2 separate 30-minute sections, but what you need to do is have the 30 minutes where you're doing something, okay? Getting the result of the 7-day success cycle in that week. But now you need another half hour to go through what we just went through in the last 25 minutes. And that is mapping out the next week, week 2 of your new life. Because if you don't sit there and map it out just like this and say, there's my half an hour for Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and you don't map that out, by Sunday, I bet you've missed at least one day. Certainly by Wednesday, the following, the second week, you will have missed at least one, if not 2. And there's a whole bunch of you in here who have missed 5.
Sorry, so you did that in this second week, or you did that from start, say, this week?
So on Wednesday next week,
Next week.
so the 20th, Wednesday the 20th of January, write down 30 minutes to achieve, to move you closer to your goal, and write down another 30 minutes to plan week 2. And sit there and go, right, in week 2, on the Thursday the 21st, where's my half hour start? Where's it finish? What am I going to achieve in that half hour? What do I have to do to achieve that? Friday the 22nd, I need to know, what is my half hour? When does it start? When does it finish? What am I going to achieve? What do I need to do to achieve that? Saturday, write that down. Sunday, write that down. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you do another half hour. And amazingly, half hour a day is 3.5 hours a week. 3.5 hours. Think of how much you could move your goal along in 3.5 hours just by adding a half hour a week. A half hour a day through that week. And in 10 weeks, that's 35 hours. That's almost a full work week. You will have moved your goal forward with that much time, just by adding a half hour of committed time each week. Right? Think of that, how great that would be if you could have a whole week to attack your goal and just plan it out like that. Okay, so that's the 7-day success cycle. 7 days, 30 minutes a day. On the 7th day, put in an extra half hour to book the next week, right? And then after 7 days again, put in the extra half hour to book the 3rd week, and then again for the 4th and the 5th, etc. And just keep doing that. That will become a habit. And if you let it become a habit, you force it to become a habit, you have the discipline to make it a habit, 6, 10, 15 weeks from now, you'll just be doing it. You'll just be doing it, and you'll be going, man, I'm getting so much done in that half hour, and I'm refining my goals, and I'm getting closer to my goals, and this feels really good. And you're going to love it. I guarantee you're going to love it. And you're going to see such a difference. But you have to give it some weeks. It's not going to just 1 or 2 weeks. Give it 5 or 6 weeks of doing the same thing. And if you do that, you will get to your goals. But you have to do it just like I said, okay? Because if you're trying to bake a cake and it says put it in the oven for 40 minutes and you only put it in for 10 minutes, you're going to get a nice cake? Anyone knows baking? No, right? And if you put it in for 4 hours instead of 40 minutes, good cake? Call the fire department, right? It's going to be horrible, right? And I'm telling you, I've told you what you need to do. It works. And it will work for you if you just do it like that. But if you skip a day, you say, oh, I'll just do 20 minutes, I'll do it tomorrow, don't expect the results, okay? Don't expect the results that you want and you're all capable of achieving, okay? So that's MAPS for Success and the 7-day success cycle. You've now got some goals that you're working towards. You have some habits that you know you need to work on to get rid of, and you need to work on them to get rid of them. They don't just disappear, okay? You've got some things that you're going to get out of your life to make space for the new things you're trying to put into your life, like the 7-day success cycle and the goals that you're trying to achieve, right? You've got a plan of action, right? So what this is a process. So the P in MAPS is process. You've got a process, and if you follow the process, it all works, okay? Follow that process. That's why McDonald's is so successful. They have a process. You go into one of the McDonald's, it's exactly the same. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody does everything. The machines are the same. The counters are the same, right? Sorry, did you have a question?
Yes, you say, how do you get rid of the habits? Like, say, like you said, is it like the Facebook walking? So are you just kind of disregard, is it as easily just saying, I'm not going to do it, you're just deciding something?
Well, I mean, that's a whole, and we could do a whole another hour or two on just habits and how you get rid of them and the psychology behind it, which unfortunately we don't have the time tonight. But yeah, come to one of my other sessions and I can help you with that if you want.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it valid to, if you've got 2 goals that are not going to be short term, so at least a year, is it valid to have the 7-day cycle of success going on if you have the time up for 2 or even 3 goals that you want to achieve in that year?
Yeah, sorry. So can you use this
Yeah.
process on other goals
Yeah.
simultaneously?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can either bunch stuff into that half hour and do the 3 different goals in that half hour and doing a bit of each one, or you can get 3 separate half hours.
Yeah.
But you know, what are you going to remove from your life for that hour and a half a day?
Yeah.
That's what you have to figure out. You have to think about what you're going to do. So that's the P, the process. And then S is standards, okay? Continually raising your standards. So the basic premise of that is whatever you think you're doing now, that's something. And then there's another standard, another level that you can go to. So if you stay at the travel lodge when you go on holiday, the next standard might be the, let's see, the Meridian or something. And then from there, it might be the Starwood. And from there, it might be Rosewood hotels, okay? So there's different standards. If you shop in a certain type of shop, if you want to raise your standard, you want to look a little nicer, then buy something a little bit nicer. You can always be raising your standards. You know, if you've won Wimbledon once, maybe win it twice, okay? Maybe 3 times if you've done so. But what happens is people get to their goal and then they're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. That's good. I'm done. Instead of raising their standard and going, okay, well, what's the next thing? And that's where you'll see some people falling off a cliff because they're like, I got my goal. I got my gold album, so now I don't have to do anything. And then they don't make another album. They're just a one-hit wonder type thing. Okay? So that's MAPS. You've got that. You've got some goals. You've got a plan. You just need to go off and do it. Okay? So I'll leave with 2 things. One is my email address. So I have a number of resources that I'm happy to email to you if you're committed enough to write this email address down and send me an email. And if you're not getting these resources. That's the way it works. So my email address is Scott, SCOTT, _E, _Gregory, which is GREGORY, at yahoo.com. Okay? And if you lose the piece of paper you've just written it on, or your machine goes blank, Chris knows my email address as well, so you could ask him if you need to get in touch with me. So now that you've got that, what I'd like you to do, little extra thing, is I'd like you, if you're going to send this email to get these resources of books and videos I think are some of the best, most useful, most powerful tools, I'll give you those. What I would like in return is just that you put one thing in that you liked about this presentation, this workshop, that you thought was useful, one thing that you thought was beneficial, and one thing that you wanted to get out of it or thought could be better, thought you'd like to see done differently. So one thing that you liked, one thing that you'd like to see done differently. Okay. Send that to me, send that to my email address, and I will send you the resources sheets that I have, and you can then see what other things, where I've got some of this information and some of the useful tools that I've uncovered. Okay. Now, I have one question for people, and the first person to answer the question will get a moleskin notebook. Brand new, still in its wrapper. It's a handy little thing to write your goals down in, and the things that you're going to be writing down in your 7-day success cycle. So it's kind of nice. 240 pages, so it might not make the whole year, but it'll get you through half a year. Okay? So now I just need somebody to answer how many hours 182 and a half. Oh my gosh, no. Okay. No. How many hours after 10 weeks of the 7-day success cycle will you have achieved? Oh shit, that's too many. Too tough. Okay, let's try again. Maybe Chris, you got something? You got something really tough?
Question?
Yeah.
Oh, on the
Really
spot.
tough question. How about tell me one of the laws I said. Somebody put your hand up.
Diminishing return.
Wow, this is harder than I thought.
This is the first time you've done this bit.
Run up and just
No, but ask a question. Maybe they can run up as well. So.
run up as well. I'm like, that's not fair to the people at the back.
How many pages are in that book?
240.
Oh my God, Chris! Right.
You suffer
Okay.
the pain or discipline or the pain of regret.
What do you think?
Just throw it.
Who wants
like
it? Hold it up.
Yeah,
Who wants it?
wedding.
All right. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.